Ideal Twin SDK is an Unreal Engine plugin that exposes the Ideal Twin platform to the editor in runtime. Once we have downloaded the plugin from fab.com or idealtwin.com, the first step is to check that the Ideal Twin plugin is installed correctly. Once verified, we can go to idealtwin.com and then sign in with our account. After signing in, please go to Projects and copy the API key of the project that you will be working on. Back in Unreal, to set this API key, please go to Project Settings, Plugins, and then Ideal Twin. Then you must paste the code that you found in the web into the project API key. With this configuration in place, we will create a small widget to retrieve the user and get the information of the user we will be working with. As a quick test, we will build a small widget that gathers the user information, grabs a unit group, and a unit. Also will display a few specific fields through a simple layout, so we can focus on the request, logic, and the user login flow. In this case, we already have all the components set up, and inside we have prepared the part that will allow us to retrieve that information from the database. We always need to do is retrieve the currently active user from the SDK and log them in. To do this, we first bind the login state to a custom event that will return whether the user has logged in and their login information. Once we have that, we will make the user object request to sign in. This data structure simply passes the email and password, the same one you use on our website where you have already signed in previously. This web credential must match those used during the user registration. Once we have this data and the request is made, the system will return the information of the user who is signed in, and in that moment, in addition to receiving it throughout the response and the binding, we could also fetch the user directly from the subsystem. The information of the user who has been signed in the same way as we have in the binding. This allows us to access the user information in the same way as the event provides it. Once the user is signed in, we simply set the name on the text widget we have created. After getting the text, we take the thumbnail ID and download the image, which ultimately comes as a suitable format. For this, there is an implemented image download function that triggers a callback when completed. If it is successful, it will return a texture that can be assigned directly to an image widget. Once the sign-in process has completed, this is when we start collecting the necessary information for our project. In this case, instead of using the user, we'll use the request manager. This is the manager that's linked to the user who's also making the request. I'll save it as a variable, and here we do the first check. Does the request manager already have the project information? Is it ready? Or do the request needs to be made? If the request manager status isn't ready, the request will be made with the entire project. Once we have the data ready, from here or from the true event that we have created, we will be able to obtain the information from the unit group or the unit data. To obtain the unit group information, we have requested the information throughout the key code from the request manager. This key code can be found on the Ideal Twin website in the development section. If you enable IDs, you can find the ID and copy it into your project. Once we have the information, we can extract the data related to the unit group. In this case, we'll retrieve its display name and the number of units it contains. We'll also set this unit group as selected so that subsequent requests will be based on this specific group. Going back, once we have the unit group data, now we go to the unit data, just like we did with the unit group. What we need to do is take the request manager and ask it which one we will be using throughout the unit code. Just like with the unit group, you can find these when you enable the IDs within the Ideal Twin web platform. Back to Unreal, from here we get the information of whether it is available and the display name. Also, we can get so much more data and we can use it any way we need it. The previous step is done. Let's test it in runtime. If we go to play, it will recognize my username, how many units we have within the home group, and the unit data specifically. The core functionality of the Ideal Twin SDK is the centralization of request and data management in a single location. Downloadable files allow for individual requests and have a native structure within Unreal Engine, enabling easy data management throughout the blueprints. Data centralization is achieved through an engine subsystem where a user must register and obtain the necessary permissions to request information. Subsequently, the request manager handles all web requests, gathers the necessary information for the project, and then distributes it throughout other classes and throughout the entire project. When we receive images or PDF files, we receive data structures that we want to convert them into images for proper displays in widgets. Therefore, we have several utilities to retrieve this data, download it, transform it into images, and then return them as images so they can be placed on widgets. All downloadable files are integrated within a caching system, so once downloaded are saved to the disk. They don't need to be downloaded once again. The caching system retrieves them and provides them as images. Besides centralization, you can also make individual requests for data, specifically at specific times. While this functionality is available, we recommend using centralized system so the data can be distributed globally throughout your application and not stored locally. Although it is possible to do it this way, it could be done also individually. All data structures are converted to Unreal Engine's native format for display in blueprints and easy usability in widgets or classes. This will be all for this introduction to Ideal Twin SDK. Thank you for your time.